Okay, hopefully the Wi-Fi holds out. I'm using my phone as a hotspot. Um, welcome to 30 Minute Reviews. I'm Adam.
Hi, I'm Josie.
Yeah. We have illness currently, so I'm recording in my car in a Walmart parking lot.
You have illness, like in the house?
Yeah.
Oh,
So yeah. I think that all things considered, you're not seeing the big mess in my car, which is nice. I have my bag of tricks in the back seat that's got all my wires that's currently spilling out all over my back seat, which is nice. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Not bad. Um, you watching anything good lately?
Um,
Or play any cool games or anything?
no, no,
Have you heard of Cult of the Lamb by any chance?
no.
It's this new indie game that I saw on, well, I heard them talking about it on a podcast first, and I picked it up and started playing it. It is batshit.
Hmm.
It's like equal parts like roguelike and then also like Animal Crossing, where it's like you're this lamb that's going to be sacrificed to a god, and then another god or like an evil god comes to you and is like, we're going to spare you so you don't die in this weird disgusting way,
Mm-hmm.
but you have to start a cult in my name. So
Hmm.
you're this little lamb that starts a cult. So then you start going through dungeons and killing various like monsters and stuff to rescue followers who then also convert to your cult. It is pretty batshit.
Yeah, it looks like another game that I'm having a hard time remembering the name of.
When
Um,
I first saw it, I'm like, oh, this looks like Paper Mario.
it looks like Don't Starve.
Yes, Don't Starve.
Hmm.
Um, and then what was the other one with the same developer was I think was that the same developer as Thomas Was Alone, or
I
was that
don't
a different
know.
developer? Um, I know they're both on Game Pass. And I know they look similar, or at least the what's it called? When I think of it in my head, they look similar. Um, Off the top of my head, I don't remember.
It looks
Uh,
exactly like Don't Starve, though. Like the same
yeah,
art style and everything.
but it's a really cool game. I got it for the Switch. It's pretty fun.
Is it okay?
Um, and then I played Pac-Man World Repacked. Uh, you ever play Pac-Man World back in the day?
No, I don't think so.
Did you have a PlayStation?
No.
Okay, so they released Pac-Man World 2 on the PS2, GameCube, and Xbox. But the original was only on the PlayStation.
Oh,
And
okay.
it's a 20th anniversary game that they put out where it's like Pac-Man's attempt to be translated to be a platformer.
Hmm.
So it's like you got it it's like a 3D platformer, and it is it in 1999 it was a fun game. For $30 now, it's not a fun game.
Yeah, I wouldn't think so.
Like for $30, it's not. Like if it was like 10, I'd be like maybe.
Yeah.
But also Sonic Generations ripped off its plot like whole cloth from uh Pac-Man World.
Oh,
Because
it did?
yeah, because it's you played Sonic Generations, right? Where like the plot is like Sonic is celebrating his birthday, and then this giant like demon thing
I
comes.
played one Sonic game and it was the uh what's it called? It's the when you look down at the character.
Was it a top-down Sonic game?
Yeah, there's one and it came out in on the PC and it came out in like 1998.
Sonic 3D Blast? I don't think that was PC though.
Sonic Adventure, I think.
Oh, okay. Oh, you said top down. I'm thinking like isometric top down. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
They did Sonic Adventure, Sonic Adventure 2, and then Sonic Heroes was the third one.
Oh, okay. I'm not really a big fan of
Sonic.
Sonic games.
I'm shocked that it still has the longevity that it has because like
I think just people are weird and they get
well,
attached to things.
I think it's like it's kind of like what Robin Hood did to people in the 70s where it's like this is the introduction to furries and it's like I think that that's the same thing for Sonic. Um where it's like I don't understand because the game is fucking hard because I had Sonic 2 on the Genesis back in the day and I granted I was like 5 years old at most, but I couldn't get past the second world.
That's kind of how it was with the one game that I played. Um, but I, it's actually a game that I want to replay now that I'm older, and I hope that it's just that I have better coordination now.
It's on Steam, Sonic Adventure.
Hmm.
They all the original games they took off of Steam, and if you owned it, you can't download it again. Because I had Sonic 2 on Steam, but you can't download it again because they
Hmm.
repackaged it as Origins, so you got to pay another 40 to get those games now, and I'm not paying $40 for Sonic, Sonic 2, Sonic 3, and Sonic and Knuckles. I'm sorry,
Yeah,
not
no,
worth it.
that should just play pretty much the same game over and over again.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, it's in Sonic Generations. What it is you know Sonic is having his big 20th birthday party,
Mhm.
and this giant thing appears out of nowhere and breaks time. So Sonic from like modern Sonic from like Adventure on has to team up with old Sonic, which is like the Sonic from the 2D side scroller games,
Mhm.
and then they have to go through and save all his friends. Um, there's no two versions of Pac-Man in this, but
Mhm.
the story is Pac-Man is having his birthday party, and then this giant monster comes and abducts all of his friends, and he has to go and save all of his friends from this giant monster. And I'm like,
Mhm.
oh, okay, that's cool, I guess. But and Sonic did come, you know, after by about 10 years, give or
Mhm.
take. But yeah. Um, so last night was the Creative Arts Emmys. I'm assuming you didn't watch because I didn't watch it either.
No, absolutely not.
The Creative Arts Emmys are the like the below the line categories, which I will commend them for actually airing that because like you don't have like best color grading, best lighting at the Academy Awards, like, and those are important things, and they don't do that. And like I will say this about the Snyder Cut, and you may want to write this down and honor this moment because it's the only time I'll say something nice about the Snyder Cut. Um, the color grading in that movie is top notch. Like
Now, for
all
those of us in the back that don't know what color grading means,
color grading is adjusting the general like way the movie looks by how do I describe it? It's it's adjusting the general like color warmth of a film.
oh,
So like, you know, when you watch a movie and it's like or it's dark and there's like that blue tint to it, that's that. Or if it's brighter at times,
mm-hmm,
that's that kind of thing. It's the kind of thing where you don't notice it unless it's really shitty or it does something really unique and different. And
hmm,
like, did you watch the Snyder Cut? I don't remember if I asked you this.
I did.
Do you remember the flashbacks with Darkseid when he comes to
Yes.
Earth? That whole thing looks very unique from anything else. And I think that if they had a color grading, it would have deserved that.
Mm-hmm.
But whatever, they don't have that. And also it wasn't eligible because it didn't come out in theaters. So um they have all of those. They do the creative arts Emmy. So it's like all of the stuff that like they don't think people give a crap about.
Mm-hmm.
They do separate from like the primetime Emmys, which is like, you know, best sitcom, best drama, you know, that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So last night, of note, Chadwick Boseman, who died 2 years ago this week, actually, won posthumously outstanding voice performance for his role in What If, the episode with T'Challa being abducted instead of Star-Lord. So he did win that award, and I think this is a like a good place to have this discussion again. With Black Panther 2 coming out in November. They're not recasting T'Challa. They're killing off T'Challa. Where do you stand on that? Should they recast him? or should they
I'm
let
okay
him
with
stay dead?
them. I'm okay with him being dead. I don't really know anything about the lore or the story behind the uh Black Panther, so I don't have anything to be like up mad about.
Well, like, I mean, for me, I don't think it's so much that as much as it is what this character means. Like, because this was like the first, I mean, it's not the first because there was Steel, there was Blade, there was Catwoman in 2005. This is the first black superhero to have major mainstream financial success of the modern era. And I think
So, like,
that
out of respect to the character and the actor.
they're not recasting out of respect to Chadwick Boseman, and I feel like if this was anyone else, they would have recast. Like I feel like had in the middle of the Infinity Saga, Robert Downey Jr. dropped dead, that would not have been the end of Iron Man.
I think it might have.
No, I think they would have recast. I think they would have recast because that was the big thing that they used to say. It's like if there was a plane that went down and had all the Avengers on it, they could still finish the movies because they have enough audio banked that they can pull from and recreate their voices.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, look at what Disney did with Star Wars, where um, Episode 9, when that came out, uh, Carrie Fisher was dead for 2 years, 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
Like she was not alive for the shooting of Rise of Skywalker.
Right.
And she's still in that movie pretty heavily. Um,
Oh, okay.
so like for me, I'm like, I think that if it's anyone else, and that this isn't even just Disney, I think it's across both studios, looking over at DC too. I think if it is anyone else, I think they would have recast. And I'm not sure why they're like, this is where we're going to end this character's story because I mean, Black Panther's been around since the '60s, and there are stories to tell with that character,
Mm-hmm.
and there's definitely more room to explore. Um,
I mean, I don't know if it's just because of the
I think
of
it's just a
him as an
tragedy.
actor.
That's
Yeah,
what I
it's
think it
probably
is.
partial tragedy, partial could anybody ever even follow his act and pretend to be him?
I mean, I think that what they would do is I think they would just be like, oh, so this is not, you know, I think they would like, well, like, that's the thing. When they recast other people, they didn't attempt to make it be the identical character.
Mm-hmm.
Like Mark Ruffalo is not doing an Ed Norton impression,
Mm-hmm.
and and they didn't have Don Cheadle attempt to do Terrence Howard as War Machine. So it's not like they do one to one when they recast, but I think that it's hard to get an actor to sign on to that because they don't want to be the one to follow it up and then not do well. That's probably part of it. And I think the decision for this movie, especially, is just this movie has a release date and they were already reshuffling release dates enough. They
Mm-hmm.
couldn't be like, okay, so now on top of that, we got to reshuffle this again to do that. I just find it weird that there is no hero character in Marvel who has died and has stayed dead besides Yondu.
That's true.
I think Yondu is the only character who's like, I mean, and technically Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man is still dead, but
Mm-hmm.
with Secret Wars coming, I mean, all they got to do is say, "Hey, do you want $90 million to come back for 3 scenes?" And he'll be back in the suit, no problem. As an alternate universe Tony Stark who didn't die.
Right.
Um, and I feel like there was something here where they could have done something different. And I feel like, and again, it's like if Henry Cavill died, DC would have recast him
Mm-hmm.
in between Superman and Batman, Man of Steel and Batman v Superman. They would have recast him, no problem. They would have recast, Captain America. They would have recast anyone. It's just for whatever reason, this one I think it all comes down to budgeting and production timelines. It's just easier to be like, well, we'll put Shuri in the suit for this movie, and then we'll work out a long-term solution down the line. Um, and
Hmm.
I don't want to disparage Chadwick Boseman. I think I went on record as saying that, like, years from now, his career is going to be looked back on the way we look back on James Dean, where it's like James Dean is Hollywood royalty, and he only had 5 to 10 years of activity making movies. And the same goes for like Natalie Wood. Natalie Wood was not around for a very long time in Hollywood, and Judy Garland too. Like they had relatively short careers, but they're still very well known. I think Chadwick Boseman's going to be the same, not just because of his role as T'Challa, but also like while he was fighting cancer, he played Jackie Robinson, he played James Brown, he played Thurgood Marshall. Um, I don't think there's another actor who had that level of depth in their filmography in such a short amount of time.
Um, the woman who died from cancer on the Harry Potter.
Um, the one who played Narcissa Malfoy.
No, the woman who played Professor McGonagall. She was in a lot of films while she was fighting.
She's not dead.
She's, yeah, she is.
No, she's not. She was just in a movie this year.
She?
Yeah, she was in Downton Abbey too.
Oh, yeah, you're right. She just was fighting cancer through all of
Yeah.
it. She didn't actually die, though.
No, the one who died was I forgot her name, but she played Narcissa Malfoy. She was very young too
Yeah.
when she died. But yeah, I mean, long-term solution. I think it's a disservice to the character to let him stay dead.
Hmm.
That said, I mean, I have come around on the Black Panther trailer because they show it before fucking everything now. Because it's getting closer. And it's like that shot of Namor coming out of the water. Maybe it is just like I feel like I had the same issue with the Eternals trailer where I'm like, I don't really get the appeal of this. And then I saw it in a theater in IMAX, and that shot of her standing in front of Arishem, the Celestial, I was like, this is the
Hmm.
greatest thing ever. Like I feel like it's the same thing where it's like I'm seeing it on the big screen, and it's like, and here is Namor coming out of the water, even though I keep thinking of Mr. Nimbus from Rick and Morty every time I see him. Which that comes back tonight. I keep forgetting.
Tonight?
Yeah, tonight Rick and Morty comes back.
Oh my goodness, I didn't know it was already
I
here.
think it's 11 o'clock on Adult Swim.
Um, have you watched any of their other um shows that they did?
What? Solar Opposites on Hulu.
Yeah, and then the new
I
one,
have not yet.
okay.
I've been meaning to, but I got tied into the Rings of Power this weekend, and
Hmm.
um, without
I
getting too
also
into it, because I'm
watched
gonna,
those.
yeah, I wanna have it with you and Peter because
Okay.
I know you both have a deeper knowledge of Lord of the Rings than I do. Considering I hadn't watched a Lord of the Rings movie until I watched them with Peter, and we
Hmm.
watched those after we saw The Hobbit in theaters. Um,
Okay.
so I didn't see them until late. And then I went back and read the books after I read The Hobbit and I read the three Lord of the Rings books. I know you go deeper with like the Silmarillion, which I'm probably mispronouncing, and other things with that. I don't exactly have that. So
Only read the books.
okay. You read the books, you read the three Lord of the Rings and then the
Hobbit.
Hobbit. You didn't read the other stuff. Okay, but
No.
Peter has an expertise unlike anyone I've met.
Yeah.
He goes deep with that. So I want to have a because he knows the discontinuity stuff, and I want to have him on it. As someone who doesn't know a lot of the deeper lore, I didn't hate the show. I think it's pretty.
I think it could I think the special effects are nice. I think the acting's not great. And
Yeah, I wasn't
I think
thrilled
they
about.
skimped out on um not prosthetics, but like wardrobe.
Yes, definitely. I will say
It's
that
like
too.
paper mache.
And I think that the other, like for me, when I'm watching it, my biggest problem is based on having watched the movies. I've watched the six movies up until this point. Lord of the Rings does not feel like Game of Thrones. Those
Uh,
feel like two very different. Like it's two like Lord of the Rings doesn't have the same like high energy political intrigue that
Hmm.
fuels the entirety of Game of Thrones. They're trying to make that happen, but it just kind of feels weird.
That's why I didn't. That's what it was. Yeah, it's that. That's why it feels weird when you
It's
watch it. It
the
doesn't
tone
feel like
doesn't
a Lord of
mesh
the
the
Rings
world that
thing.
you're supposed to be trying
It
to make.
feels like Game of Thrones.
Right. Which are you
Hmm.
liking House of the Dragon?
Um, it's okay. Not really. I mean, I'm gonna keep watching it. It's fine.
I mean, for me, and again, and I think I've been open about this on the show. Again, not the deepest Game of Thrones viewer. I watched
Hmm.
part of one season of Game of Thrones, and it wasn't season one. It was whatever season ends in Lena Headey being paraded through the street with the woman with the bell yelling shame. Whatever season that is, I watched half of that season.
Why, for the naked lady?
No, because me and Peter were sharing a living room at that point, and
Okay.
he was watching the show, so I caught half of it in that regard. Um, so I don't have the deepest knowledge of Game of Thrones. What I know about Game of Thrones, this has a really weird scope compared because they're really focusing on the Targaryens, and it makes sense that it's a prequel about the Targaryens, but you don't have that same like mix of everyone else in this wider world, and it doesn't quite feel as big as it should. But at the same time, they're trying to make it bigger. It just kind of feels kind of weird like that
I'm
for me.
almost wondering, are they doing it on purpose to be like everything back in the day seemed small? I don't know. Yeah,
I
it was
don't think it's
another
that much
thing
of a
that didn't
time
have the
difference
right
though.
feel.
I don't think it's that much of a time difference though. Like,
Well, there's still dragons around and they've been gone for,
I think it's only 200 years though, or 191, or something like that.
yeah.
I know it's
Okay.
definitely 200 years, and this is not Game of Thrones, but the High Republic in Star Wars, which is their new publishing initiative, that's
Okay.
200 years before the Skywalker saga. It is the
Mm-hmm.
most disjointed attempt to like do a prequel I have ever seen in my life because it's like it takes a lot of the old stuff is still canon somehow. Like the Jedi Mandalore War is still canon, the Old Republic is still canon. Um, there was another one, the Jedi Sith War, all that stuff's still canon. Mandalore is in the Outer Rim. Am I correct in that? Like Mandalore is an Outer Rim world, if I remember correctly. Um, and I think that like the entirety of the High Republic is centered. I see that you're chewing. That's why I'm bridging. I didn't look
Sorry.
at you when I didn't look at you when I asked that question, and then I looked up. I'm like, why isn't she talking? And you're chewing.
I'm eating.
No, no,
Sorry.
I know, but I wasn't looking at you when I
You're fine.
when I posed the question. I was looking at this new Halloween store that they're opening, because it's September and they have to open these stores in empty models for some reason. Um, so Mandalore, if I remember correctly, is an Outer Rim planet, and there's a huge war that happens. But now we're 200 years before the Skywalker saga, and the Outer Rim is still kind of completely unexplored to an extent.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like they have this huge, like, like the entire initiative that they're doing is they want to unite the Outer Rim into the Mid Rim and the Core Worlds, and it's just kind of not being accepted by the Nihil who live out there. It's so fucking weird.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and there are these Ents like Lord of the Rings that are dark side, like, and they can
Yeah.
control the dark side. That's pretty cool, but like,
That's canon.
yeah, it's
That's well, like before they, I mean, like that's an older thing. That's something that's always
they
been a
changed the
part of it.
name for the new one.
They changed the name.
Yeah, they're called the Dragnir.
Oh.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And like the Thrawn books are nonsensical too. I'm just if I never have to read the name Thrawn again in my life, I'll be thrilled because I am so fucking done with Thrawn.
Oh.
Um,
Why?
well, because they did prequel books. They did Thrawn, and then there were two others. The second one of those is very specifically a tie-in to Galaxy's Edge.
Mm-hmm.
And that one, the entirety of the book takes place both on Batuu in the like current era, quote unquote, which is Thrawn working for the Empire with Vader, and then a flashback to the Clone Wars when he's working with Anakin as a member of the Kiss Ascendancy. And then the third one is a tie-in to Rogue One, where the bad guy is Krennic.
Well, what about the one where it's like Thrawn's exile?
That is okay. That is and they retcon that too in the books. So Thrawn is exiled in at the beginning of the first one of those. He is encountered. He's found on the planet, and I think if there's any character who's a Mary Sue in Star Wars, it's Thrawn because he is on this planet and then he's found by the Empire, and the Empire takes him onto their command ship, and he talks his way into the Emperor's chamber,
Mm-hmm.
and then talks his way into being put into the academy,
Mm-hmm.
into the Naval Academy, and then talks his way into graduating early, all within 5 chapters.
Mm-hmm.
And then he like that whole book is ridiculous, and I understand what they're going for. They're going for like it's supposed to be like an immigrant story where it's like here's a guy who doesn't fit in because obstinately the Empire is mostly humans and
Mm-hmm.
he is humanoid, but he's blue, and they don't like aliens. So
Yep. The
they
Empire doesn't like aliens.
right. So they like it's supposed to be like this guy coming in and doing what they do better. Like I understand what they're going for. I've seen this movie a dozen times. I understand where this is going for. The problem is he's working for a genocidal organization. It's not like he's like going in and becoming a doctor or doing something noble. It's like he's becoming a warlord for them. So it is kind of a mixed message.
Yes, because he believes in the um like preempting things.
He believes in helping the Kiss Ascendancy. That's the big retcon in the new books that they did, which is a prequel to his time at the Empire. They
Mm-hmm.
did a trilogy of books that is him and the Kiss Ascendancy, and they show that Thrawn does have a weakness, and his weakness is he doesn't handle politics well, and he can't handle
Hmm.
the family drama, but it's okay because it never impacts him negatively in any way.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Because
I
he's so
guess
charming and politically savvy.
no, he's not politically savvy, but he's so good at his job that they're like, well, he can't kiss our ass properly, but we'll
Hmm.
let him do whatever he wants anyway.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's ridiculous. I'm so thrown out. And they do you remember that really shitty book about the wedding of Han Solo and Leia?
Um,
I want to say it was an 80s book or maybe a 90s book. It was old. It's not recent.
I don't think so. I don't
Yeah,
think I have listened to it or heard
I
read it.
don't remember what it was called. It was like the courtship of Princess Leia. But it was widely panned. A lot of people hated it. They're remaking that book to tie into Galactic Star Cruiser because now what happened is Leia and Han get married after episode 6 and they go on their honeymoon on the Galactic Star Cruiser.
Hmm.
So
I
corporate synergy at its best.
Yeah. I just pulled it up. The cover art for this is absolutely worth looking. It's worth looking this book
Which
up.
one, the new one or the courtship of Princess Leia?
Whichever one just came up, The Courtship of Princess
Yeah,
Leia.
it
It's
is
some good
truly
cover
something.
art.
Yeah, it is something. It is um and then it's like, I go into Star Wars because that's our second story. Did you hear
Hmm.
John Boyega? He has a new movie that just came out last week, Breaking. It's pretty good actually. It's a veteran who got screwed by VA, so he takes a bank hostage so he can tell his story because people won't listen to him unless he does something big. So he goes into a bank and starts taking it hostage.
Hmm.
Um, it's a pretty great movie, and he's on the press tour, and I always feel so bad for these people on these press tours who are like, I made a serious movie and you're asking me about fucking Star Wars.
Hmm.
Um, and it's like Star Wars that I was in 3 years ago at this point. Like, stop. And it's like there's the same thing for everyone. Like Karen Gillan had a new movie come out, um, Duel, and she was like, "So what can you tell us about Nebula?" And it's like, shut the fuck up. Ask her about the movie she's in now, where she's playing two characters.
Hmm.
Like, so he's got this. I gotta turn my air conditioner on, because my laptop is currently burning my lap. So excuse any ambient car noise. Um, so she is. Hang on 1 second. Let me turn that off. There we go. Um, so she's playing the two roles and then she gets that. So John Boyega was where I was before I turned my car on. John Boyega is on the press tour for this movie, and someone asked him, "Would you ever go back to Star Wars?" And he
Mm-hmm.
said he wouldn't, unless like you get 50 years down the road and they want him to come back for like episode 10, like how
Yeah.
Harrison Ford, he said he would consider it then, but right now he thinks he's done with it, which is
Mm-hmm.
fair. And he's like, look, I got a lot of shit during the entirety of that trilogy, and it was constant, and Disney did nothing to help me
Mm-hmm.
deal with that. And he's like, look, it's reassuring now seeing that with Obi-Wan, they're backing Moses Ingram a little bit more, which is she played I forgot the character's name, the Inquisitor in
Mm-hmm.
Obi-Wan. Um,
Oh, okay.
yeah, and it's like she got consistent hate. And it's like, it's good to see they're backing her and they're doing more to back her, and I'm totally for that. But and it's reassuring that my experience had that positive impact, that now she doesn't have to go through that because they saw what happened with me, but I don't want to step back into that arena willingly right now. And all of
Mm-hmm.
that is fair. And then someone asked him what are his thoughts about his character arc in episode 9. And keep in mind, the episode 9 that was released was not the original episode 9 that was written. It's very
Okay.
different from the original script. So what happened was Disney hired Colin Trevorrow, who directed Jurassic World and Jurassic World Dominion, to do episode 9. He got fired after Book of Henry bombed. Was it Book of Henry? He did a movie that had Harrison Ford in it between in between there somewhere. And that movie bombed, was a critical failure, and no one liked it. It made no money. And this is when Lucasfilm was doing that thing where they would get antsy on like the drop of a hat and they would fire people. So like
Okay.
it happened with like what with Lord and Miller, who were working on Solo, and they produced half the movie and then fired them and reshot the entire movie.
Hmm.
Um, Lord and Miller, who ended up doing Into Spider-Verse. So they they're talking about, that he gets fired, and then they bring back JJ to do episode 9. And JJ's script is totally different. Emperor comes back in JJ's script. Emperor is not back in Duel of the Fates, which is the name of episode 9 under Trevorrow. And the script is available online. You can read it. And it has probably one of my favorite character motivation lines in any script I've ever read. Because in the script, Hux dies via suicide on Coruscant, with Mace Windu's lightsaber.
On purpose?
Yes, because he sees the battle is going south, and the First Order is losing the battle. So he takes Mace Windu's lightsaber and commits seppuku with it.
Like for any purpose or just
Well,
like,
so that way he wouldn't be captured alive, I guess.
oh,
Because it's
okay.
like Coruscant is falling. Like that's the big thing, is that the final battle in that one takes place
That's
on
not
Coruscant.
Star Wars' style for heroes. The heroes
Hux,
get captured and then they
Hux,
leave.
Hux is the bad guy.
Who's that? Oh.
Yeah, the guy who was the other one with Kylo Ren, the guy who was one of the
Oh,
Weasleys.
I thought we were still talking about John
No, 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 no,
Boyega.
no, no. But that was in this. That was in the script. Was that this guy? He gets Mace Windu's lightsaber and he kills himself.
That's kind of
Um,
cool.
yeah, and that in the script, it's like for his character motivation, it's like he's looking out over the window and then he walks back and he sees it, and the realization hits him. He has lost the Star Wars, and I'm like, I wish that
Oh.
that line made it into the movie. But when the script leaked, people looked at it like, see, this is ridiculous. That was going to be in the movie. And it's like, no, it's not. That's not meant for people outside of the director and the actor to be like, this is your motivation for this scene.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so that Domhnall Gleeson, that's the name of the actor who plays him. Um, which fun fact, he's the guy who played Mad Eye Moody's son too in real life.
Oh.
But he is, so that all happens. But Finn's arc in the original cut was when they go to Coruscant, and Ray doesn't go to Coruscant in the original. Ray goes to. Did you ever watch Rebels? Rey goes to like the world between worlds, with that black and white place with the what's it called? With the um with the white lines, and you can see all through time and stuff like that. Um so Rey goes there, and she fights Kylo Ren there, and that's the final fight in the movie, is her versus Kylo Ren in the world between worlds. But the rest of everyone who's not a Jedi goes to um goes to Coruscant for this final confrontation between the First Order and the Resistance at Coruscant. And Finn leads a rebellion of stormtroopers, because
I
they're
don't
very specific throughout the entire trilogy. And I think it's probably the only through line through the entire trilogy, is that the stormtroopers are not clones, they're not conscripts, they're abducted children who are forced into it. So that's kind of the only thing that they had consistent through the entire sequel trilogy, is like that
hmm,
through line. So Finn would have had this arc where when we see him in The Force Awakens, he is
hmm,
begrudgingly joining the heroes because he wants to escape the First Order.
hmm.
Like, so he doesn't join because he's like, I'm doing the right thing because it's the right thing, but it's like, look, we have to do this, and then after this, I will fuck off and no one will see me again.
Yeah.
Then in The Last Jedi, he is, he doesn't want to, but then he sees what's happening in the galaxy. So he goes through the entire, thing, and the entire ordeal. And like, that's kind of why the Canto Bite sequence is kind of important, but you can still make the case that it's not. Um, like, that is still like, he goes through all of that, and then he goes, I'm going to willingly join the resistance, and now I'm going to, like, go with them all the way. And then in episode 9, as we saw it, he does nothing the entire movie.
Hmm.
Finn has no purpose in The Rise of Skywalker through the entire movie.
I don't
Um,
even think I've seen the last one in the trilogy.
did you see him yell Ray a lot?
Um, the last one I have not seen. I went to go see it in theaters. I fell asleep during it,
Oh,
and I have not attempted to watch it again.
you're not missing too much. It's not a good movie. I would say it is the worst of all of them. Not the worst of the sequels. I
Well,
would say it's less watchable than Attack of the Clones.
yeah, I mean, I wasn't tired when I went.
um, yeah, I would say Attack of the Clones is definitely a more watchable movie. But I think that had they done this and serviced his character a little bit better, it would have been better. And they asked him about that, because now the script is kind of out in the open because that script leaked.
Hmm.
And they asked him about it, like, so based on what happened with JJ's movie and based on what happened with, the original script, how do you feel about how your character was served? And he goes, I'm not happy about it. Like, they took me and they turned me into a, maybe he's a Jedi, but maybe not. And that's not even, if you watch the movie, it's never said. It's only if you read the novelization that it's like, oh, that's what he's trying to tell Ray anytime he's like, Ray, I got to talk to you.
Hmm.
It's Ray is got like, I'm like, I think I have the Force, or like,
Yeah.
like I have a high midichlorian count, or like there was a joke like that where it's like the high midichlorian count means that you have like um Jedi version of leukemia or whatever. But he he's trying to tell Ray all through the movie, like, oh, this is what we are. Like, I have something to tell you, but it never actually happens. And he's like, look, I would have liked to have done the original, and then they gave me the new script, and not thrilled by it. Like, I wasn't thrilled by it, so I
Hmm.
think it's reflective in my performance. And I'm like, I completely understand that. Like, I totally
Hmm.
understand, like, being told you're gonna have this massive role, and then it's like, okay, because JJ is now here, we're gonna cut it down.
Hmm.
And I feel like that, like, it's the same thing with what's his name over at DC, Ray Fisher, who
Hmm.
feels that, he got screwed between the Snyder Cut and the theatrical, and he blames Joss Whedon for it. And on the one hand, yes, Joss Whedon did cut most of the cyborg stuff, but on the other
Hmm.
hand, Zack Snyder wrote a script with all the cyborg stuff in it that is not relevant to the story, to the point that you can cut out 2 hours of story about the character and not miss anything important.
Yeah.
Um, so how do you feel about, John Boyega not wanting to come back for more Star Wars?
Um, Different.
I think Andor is coming in like 3 weeks. Are you excited for that?
Andor?
Andor. It's about Diego Luna's character in Rogue One.
Oh, maybe it'll be okay.
Um,
Maybe. I don't know. I haven't even seen the for it.
it will be a movie. I'll give it that.
Okay.
Or it will be a show, not a movie. It's a show on Disney Plus. And then I think Bad Batch is also this year for Star Wars.
Okay.
Have you been watching She-Hulk?
I have.
What have your thoughts been?
I'm bored. We talked about it last time. I'm bored. It's boring.
I like
But maybe there might be a third episode I haven't
there is
seen.
a third episode.
I haven't seen it then. Maybe
Um,
I'll be less bored.
the third episode feels more like what the show should have been from the beginning, where it's kind of like villain of the week, where it's like here is someone coming in with a problem that
Hmm.
involves superheroes or supervillains, and we need your legal help with it.
Hmm.
So like you remember the Dickie DA guy from the first episode and the second episode?
Nope.
Oh, well, there's a Dickie DA guy that used to work with her, and then before she got fired, and he was getting catfished by a light elf from New Asgard.
Oh,
So he hires the firm
wait a
to
minute. Are you
represent him.
telling me so that way I can't watch it?
No, you can still watch it. I'm not telling you
But I'm
what's
gonna
gonna
know what's
happen.
going to, but now I know what's gonna happen.
That's in the episode description.
I don't know that yet.
Um, and Daredevil will show up on the show, and I know you still haven't watched Daredevil, but
Nope. I
he
watched
will
the
show up.
first season of it.
Yeah, he's gonna show up in his yellow suit from the comics, that yellow and red suit.
That'll be cool.
So that's what I'm hanging in for. I'm like, I want to see it. There's a cameo in the episode from a famous rapper too.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, it's I think that it's not for everyone. It's not like like Miss Marvel was kind of just like anyone could watch that and like that. If that's that kind of thing. But like I feel like this was not. Like this one is not as crowd pleasing.
No.
There's a subset of the fan base who felt personally attacked by one sequence in the show, and I know this for a fact because there's one guy at work who felt personally attacked by it, and he came up to me when I walked into work, and he's like, "I did not like that episode of She-Hulk. I'm not watching anymore," and walked away. And that's all he said about it. And I'm like, I know
Okay.
exactly what part you feel personally attacked by. I know exactly what you're talking about, and I just think that's hilarious. Um, there was one other big story. Oh, do you remember last year we did the episode for DC Fandome?
Yeah.
DC Fandome is not happening this year.
Oh,
And they cite the end of the pandemic as the reason why. DC. DC says
okay.
that because the pandemic's over, we no longer need to hold these virtual events. We can go back to in-person events. I don't buy it.
No.
No. I think that for them, it's like a Nintendo Direct. Like it basically is like the entertainment equivalent of a Nintendo Direct. Like they go out, they're like, here's all the cool shit we have coming.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like and it's their opportunity to command a news cycle. Like Disney in I think it's this weekend coming up is D23, and they will dominate that news cycle. And then an investor day in November, they will dominate that news cycle as well. When it comes to DC, they don't have that. They only have these events that are like Comic-Con and New York Comic-Con and like C2E2 and all that kind of stuff. But they're sharing that space with Marvel, with Dark Horse, with Paramount or whoever else wants to talk about stuff. They don't have that exclusive window where they can just dominate a news cycle. Because like the day that DC had their film panel at San Diego was the same day that what's it called? That Marvel unveiled phases 4, 5, and 6.
Mm-hmm.
So like they went out and they showed a trailer for Black Adam and they showed a trailer for Shazam, But at the end of the day, all anyone was talking about was, holy crap, Secret Wars is coming in 2025.
Hmm.
Um, so they're trying to do that. And I think the reason is right now they're not exactly operating from a position of strength. Because like last year they came um to Fandome with like we're doing Milestone Comics, we're doing animated movies with Milestone Comics, we're doing a Static Shock movie, we're doing a Batgirl movie, we're doing like here's footage from the Flash, here's footage from Aquaman, here's footage from the Batman, here's footage from Black Adam. And it's like cool, but by the time this happens, one movie that you showed last year will have come out.
Mm-hmm.
Everything else will have been delayed, and the second one, Black Adam, will be coming out later that month, but everything else has been delayed or canceled outright.
Hmm.
And it's like you can't hold an event like that if you have nothing to show.
Okay.
Like I think that's more what it is that it's like they like I did an episode about it a little while ago when they announced that Fandom was canceled, and I said what I would have done is I would have held Fandom and I would have been like, look, we understand that you guys are upset and confused because there's been a lot of talk about what's going on with the company, but we haven't outright commented on the majority of it. We've been doing a lot of quiet moves on the schedule. We've been doing a lot of canceling things that have been confirmed through Variety and the Hollywood Reporter, but there hasn't been a big broad statement by DC of what's happening. So here's what's happening. Here's our new head of DC Films. Here's their plan. Like, and then you have them go up and do like Kevin Feige, because that's what they're looking for. Is they're looking for their Kevin Feige, who is the head of Marvel Studios.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, here's what we're doing. Me personally, I would pick Greg Berlanti, um,
Okay.
as the head of, because he was the one who led Arrow and the Flash and all of that on the CW for the better part of a decade. And if you need someone to make a 10-year plan for DC characters, why not hire the guy who had previously executed a 10-year plan for DC characters?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I just don't understand. Like that would have made so much more sense than like we're just not going to do it. And we're going to hold events at conventions. Because then the other issue that happens is, say Gal Gadot goes to New York Comic Con. I don't know if she's on the guest list or not, but say she does. Say she's one of the guests, and they do these meet and greets where you can pay $50 and you can talk to a person at what's it called? You can talk to the person while you're taking a picture with them. And someone asks her, so like, what's going on with Wonder Woman 4? And it's like if she says anything but I can't talk about it yet, or even if she does say that, that becomes a news story that DC hasn't vetted, and they can't be like, look, here's what's happening. Did I say Wonder Woman 4? I mean Wonder Woman 3. Um,
Okay.
and it's like they can't publicly like they can't vet that story before it gets out.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's part of the problem with this system. And it's like, look, you can do these big grand events. That's fine. I totally get why you're doing that. But at the same time, you have to have this one-on-one at this point, because people are getting antsy.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a subset of the fan base that's feeling concerned because if you look at the titles that have been canceled and you look at the titles that haven't, there's a commonality between the titles that have been announced to be in development and the titles that have been canceled. And it's the titles that are still being made are The Batman 2, Joker 2, and the Green Lantern show on HBO Max. Meanwhile, Batgirl got canceled. The Flash is still ongoing somehow. I don't understand how that movie is still on the table. And it's like that what is continuing is very white, while what's getting canceled is everything that's not white.
Hmm.
And people are noticing that. It's not something that you can do. They're not being subtle about it. And it's like, look, if that's what your marketing thing is going to be, and you want to be the one that's like, look, we're going to appeal to this portion of the fan base, fine, do that. But look what happened to Star Wars when they dipped in to appeal purely to that part of the fan base and ended up with the Rise of Skywalker, that ended up grossing lowest of any of the sequels.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't work. I mean, the two of the highest grossing superhero movies are, I mean, if you look, it's like Captain Marvel did over 2 billion, or no, over 1 billion. Um, Black Panther did over 1 billion. Aquaman did over 1 billion, and Jason Momoa is not white, and Wonder Woman did over 1 billion.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like if you're gonna sit here and start canceling movies, it's like there's no way that Batgirl was so bad that they wouldn't have turned a profit on the $95 million movie. Like, because you just need to make 190 million to turn that profit, and you can do that in 2 weekends. Considering Shazam did 400 million, and no one gives a shit about Shazam.
Hmm.
So, do you have thoughts on the state of DC?
No.
Um,
Sorry.
you have no thoughts on what do you want to see DC do?
Uh,
I'm gonna give you the head of DC Comics hat, and you're gonna wear that hat. What are DC films? What movie do you make with
I
that
just want
power?
more of the Harley Quinn TV show. That's all I want. That
That's
that
it.
that's it.
Cancel the
Yeah.
theatrical slate. Cancel
Yeah, fuck
Titans.
everything else. I just
Cancel
want some
Doom Patrol.
more. I
Harley Quinn
want
TV show.
more. Yeah, and something else like that. Like that's fun like that. I'd watch all the shows if they
There's
were
a
like,
chance that Disney ends up with Batman because Caped Crusader is not going to HBO Max anymore, and they're
mm-hmm.
actively shopping it to other networks. So there's a chance that it ends up at Hulu. Because right now there's a bidding war between Hulu, Paramount Plus, and Apple TV Plus. So there's a chance that Disney will own a Batman show, which is just fucking bonkers to me. And look, I'm wearing a
Hmm.
Batman shirt right now. I'm wearing the Batman shirt right now, and I liked the Batman, but I don't know. I don't need these fucking dour ass, Batman movies being the entire slate.
I just want them to go back to just good, like good TV shows and stuff, like good cartoons, and
Yeah,
because they used to cartoons.
yeah. Like The
So
Flash is ending this year. This is the last season, finally. I know you didn't like the show, but I did.
like, yeah, okay.
I like that show. I watched it
I
for
know you
9 years,
do.
and it's like, look, could it have been better? Yes.
Were you already invested in it and
Yeah,
couldn't
exactly.
not
By the
do
time
it?
it turned to shit, I
Like,
was like, what the fuck? I'm already in. Like, there was one point in season 5, and I think we'll like if you do you have anything else you want to talk about? Like anything else you watched, anything else you played, anything else you read, anything?
no, I'm ready to get into the Lord of the Rings stuff.
Oh, okay. 'Cause I was gonna hold that for next week with when Peter's with us.
Oh, I thought that was this week.
No, I wrote it in the text. I said, hang on, let's go to the replay on this because
Oh
I have
my
the thing.
goodness, are you gonna show me your receipts? Because I was just gonna say, oh, okay, you're probably right.
I said scratch that, not Lord of the Rings. I have some news stories to talk about if you're not busy.
Okay, thanks for showing me the
You're
receipts.
welcome. Yeah, because I wanted Peter on too, and I because
That
he
makes
because
sense.
he has the deeper knowledge than either of us. So I want to have someone who can be like, here's where they fucked up. I want someone to point it out without it being like, here's where they fucked up. One of the elves is black, like because that's what I'm seeing. Like I'm seeing a lot of that online where I'm looking for discontinuities because like I want to know what the actual discontinuities are, and the first one's
Hmm.
always the elf is black, and I'm like, all right, can we get out of that, please? Like, is there anything else that's wrong about the show? Because if that's the only thing that's wrong, let's suck it up and
Yeah,
move on.
we'll have
Because
to talk
like
about it next week, though,
people had that
right?
problem with Sandman too,
Oh,
because
yeah,
people
because they didn't like that there was like a few different things that were different about characters.
yeah, it's like they used Joanna
But I thought
Constantine,
it
which
was really cool, and I thought they did it in a really nice way.
like, and by the way, do you want to know the explanation for why it's Joanna Constantine and not John Constantine?
Yeah, you told us last time.
Oh, I did. No, I didn't remember. But it's like, death is black, and it's like Neil Gaiman had to shut people down. He's like, no, I cast everyone. I picked the casting.
Yeah.
Like, if you don't like it, take it up with me. I wrote the comic. I had final say on everything.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's like the girl who played Death, Kirby Howell Baptiste. She's fantastic.
Yeah. She did
Um,
do a pretty good job, but I
yeah.
definitely thought they were gonna use the woman who did her voice acting. Um,
Oh, Kat Dennings.
is that her name?
Yeah, she plays Darcy in the Thor movies.
Yes. Yeah, I totally thought they were just gonna use her because I mean, her voice is so distinctive that after listening to it, I was like, yep,
I th
that's the only person that could possibly be Death. So
I
that was
think the
something
problem
that felt
is
like a lack of continuity for me.
I think the problem is that like me, you, and I know a few other people who have listened to the audiobooks, listened to the audiobook version. I
Hmm.
don't think the audience of the audiobook is that huge.
No.
Um, though I could see them bringing back like when they do the next arc, which is going to be Seasons of the Mist, where and you know when they do that for season two, I could see them bringing back some of the voice cast for some of the gods who are not humanoid,
Hmm.
like Bast or however you pronounce it, is voiced by BB Newirth. Like I could see her coming back and doing that.
Hmm.
Um, and it's like, but they did not bring back Kevin Smith as Murph Pumpkinhead.
Hmm.
They put Mark Hamill in that. Um, but with the Flash, what the closing thought I had on the Flash was, at one point in season five, it's the 100th episode, and the bad guy is Cicada. And Cicada's power is he has this lightning bolt shaped shard of metal
Hmm.
that it works like Thor's hammer, where if he's not touching it, it has infinite weight, but if he's touching it, he can pick it up and throw it around and stuff.
Hmm.
Um, so like we have to separate that from him, because while he has it, he could take away metahuman's abilities. So like if the Flash is in his proximity, he's holding the thing, he doesn't he loses his speed, Vibe loses his teleporty stuff. So they
Hmm.
have the idea like, okay, we need to get stuff to do it. So the idea they come up with is go through time to past seasons and bring in the technology they need from the past to build it. So they need like part of Savitar's suit. They need dark matter from, from something, and they need to energize it with the particle accelerator exploding in the first place. Um, they do all of that successfully, and the episode ends, and they're like, all right, we're going to face off against Cicada. And these dumbasses, when they get the plan is to disable the lightning bolt and then throw it into space.
Hmm.
And I'm like, motherfucker. Like, if it's in space, you can still pull it back to him, and you didn't put it far enough away. It's like, just put it in another fucking, like, put it on another Earth. Like, send it to Earth 2 or some shit. Like, don't just send it like 10 feet away. Um, and it's like, that was the point where I'm like, they're just dragging this out for, they're trying to figure out a way to drag this out for an entire season, and that was just where it kind of lost me a little bit.
Hmm.
Um, I still watch though, and that was 3 years ago. Because they did Crisis since then, and Crisis was pretty good.
Hmm.
Um, and that's inevitably where the DC films is going to end up. Because like if you're doing a big DC film crossover, where do you end? Crisis on Infinite Earths. Like
Hmm.
that's where that is your Infinity War. If you're DC, it's Crisis on Infinite Earths. Um, and that's where they have to get to.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah. So I think we'll wrap up there. I think next week for certain we're gonna have that Lord of the Rings episode. Um, again probably on Sunday. Um,
Okay.
And what else do we have? For listeners of the podcast, as usual, if any news comes out, D23 specific, because D23 starts on Thursday and we'll be continuing through the weekend. We'll be talking about that. No Disney park stuff because I don't live in Florida and I don't give a shit. Like, do you give a shit about what they're doing in the Disney parks? Like,
Me?
yes, you,
Didn't know if that was a rhetorical question.
no.
Um, a little bit, yeah. I
Oh,
totally
you
want to
do.
go to Disney. Yes.
Do you want to hear a
I
rumor I
want to go
heard?
one more time before I get too old and I can't enjoy the rides.
They're definitely changing out Splash Mountain.
Okay.
Do you want to hear something fucking ridiculous about the name though? And then I think this will be it. With that, but like the name, it was supposed to be called the Zippity River Run when they initially pitched it, which makes sense because hold on one second. So, what was I saying? For
Um,
those of you who are listening, I got a phone call, and that's why there's a disjoint.
um, I don't remember.
Oh, Zippity River Run was the name of
Yeah.
Splash Mountain, and then they changed it um, to Splash Mountain because Eisner thought they could capitalize on the presumed incoming success of the movie Splash,
No.
the Tom Hanks movie. with
Okay.
yeah. So that's being rethemed to be Princess and the Frog.
Okay.
And they're also changing what's it called? They're also apparently the dinosaur area of Animal Kingdom has been in disrepair for some time, and they took out a few of the rides. And they're going to
Okay.
retheme that too, I've heard, but I can't guarantee any of that. So we can talk about that too next week.
Okay.
But until then, have a great rest of your week.
Thanks. Bye.